Well, we've had this thing for its first shakedown at Mid-Ohio, but really what we want to know is how this thing fares at VIR. And I am so excited to see what this thing does. Should be a good day out here. Weather's looking good. We got a couple of days of messing with this thing. So yeah, we haven't really done anything differently. We did add sway bars to it since Mid-Ohio. So that's kind of the only change. And yeah, gonna hop in, take this baby out, see how it does. I'm excited about this thing.
I'm excited. It's yesterday was a weird day because you know, we're back at VIR, our home track, and I love it as a baseline, but obviously not always consistent. It's not the same out here in the heat of July as it is, you know, October when the track is super fast. And what we run into yesterday is the track is not with us right now, and you know, we're freezing at night. The ground's cold. It's taking so long to build temperature into the track. It's been a challenge. So I've been out here running in a GT4 with some customers in Spec E46. That's a known quantity car, and we're seeing in all these cars they're like 2-3 seconds off the pace. So you know, I love that baseline, but I think that baseline probably gets set in the more typical parts of the year, which is like March, April. So we go through and explain that because we're thinking about what the baseline is on this car. Well, it's like 4 or 5 seconds faster than Spec E46, which is a great reference point. You know, what I love about this car is it's paddle shift. They're readily available as donor cars. It's not like there's 200 that were brought in by Motorsport minus however many are crashed this 5 years later, which by the way, they all need $10,000 fuel cells. It's not that kind of situation. It's a car that's like 40 grand in parts to build, and it's really fast. So having a flappy paddle option with a proper ZF 8-speed transmission that's really not a slush box of the past, it's a proper racing transmission with a tune on it, which we have. We still have some parts work to do, like that. Those sway bars, they're not right. It's the most adjustable current market option that we could find to put on the car to get some adjustments, but we're going to work on bar rates and give ourselves better tuning tools. But I feel really good about where we end the year. It's getting too cold here to do much more, and I'm really excited about where we start the year next year, and probably with more than just the singular car. I know we've got a couple that we're working on in the shop, and we'll see what happens, but I like our recipe and I like our car.
Yeah, I'm super stoked on this thing. All the parts have come together. So yeah, I'm thrilled with how this has ended up this year and super thrilled to get hitting this next year.
On to 2026.
We took the F32 to the track a few weeks ago and wanted to circle back, as we didn't have a ton of time to do a download at the track, but wanted to, yeah, we had a few drivers there with us, so wanted to get one of them, Evan Levine, Spec E46 racer, pretty quick guy, get his impressions on what he thought of this car. So yeah, here we are doing a little download.
Awesome, appreciate it, guys. Let me start by saying thanks for letting me drive the car. Had a great time. We put that car into the 4s in traffic with a frustrating traffic. And I think it had more in it, right? I mean, I think we were all seeing predictive 2s and 3s, and we weren't out there qualifying, right? We're just shaking down a car in DE traffic. So I was pretty happy with that. I guess if you want to put some data around the day, right? I mean, we had a Spec E46 out there all day, which is a great sort of benchmark car for us because we know exactly what they do at VIR. On a lap record day, they're in the 5s. On an average day, 7s and 8s. It was everything I had to put that car into the mid 9s when we were testing. So, you know, I'm confident in saying the track was at least a second or two off, which means what we're really looking at on that F32 is predictive 2 flats in DE traffic while shaking down a setup, right? So, you know, I just even if it's a true 4, I'm happy with it. I thought the car was fast. It felt really good. It was out there with a lot of fast traffic. We were going 15, 16 mile an hour max speed faster than the Spec E46 on the straight. That's huge. I mean, that's not a small number. That's a massive number. Name a race car or a race class that hasn't found numerous seconds without parts changes, right? Like people start running them competitively. You learn the car, you learn the setup, you tweak things, they get faster and faster and faster. I think it's a sub-2 car when we get this sorted out.
For sure. Yeah, tweak on it. But, out of the gate, we put a pretty potent package together. And that's not pretty potent like spend a bunch of bucks. I don't know where you are on the build sheet for this car, but I think we're like 40 grand in parts at retail.
I think we might even be sub 40 grand just in parts. If you, I need to get it fully finalized, but yeah, I think that's about where we are.
And that's not cheating. That's like forged wheels and the good stuff. It's not just throwing a ton of power at it. 16 miles an hour faster, that's awesome, but we got to be mindful that heat is a thing, and we're looking at a car that can do a range of things, including endurance racing and running in Texas and running in Florida. And we kind of already know these answers because there's an M235 racing out there with the same driveline package, and so we run that a lot in those hotter temperatures, so we kind of know where we're headed, and we know where we got to be careful. I love that M235i race. Like that was a great car, but in a good day on slicks and with the same power level, actually a little bit higher power level, because that one was tuned up. Our car is currently has some coating removed, but it's not actually tuned up. That car was 204s on Pirelli slicks, which so we're talking about we're on an endurance spec bar comp type versus a Pirelli slick. We're in a car that weighs a little bit less. I mean, it's still not a lightweight car, but I don't think you feel the heft of the car. It's sprung up nicely. It has that MCS suspension, and it's it's lively. It's got 18x10 wheels on it, a big 275 tire. And to me, that goes a long way in making that thing go around the track for a duration of time without dagging the tires. But then. Again, one of the coolest things is on those M235i racings, there's only like 100 of them, or however many we got in the US. That that number has decreased. By the way, every 10 years or every 5 years, you got to put a 10. There's my 10. You got to put a $10,000 fuel cell in it, because for 127 liters of fuel, that's what you have to do. But we're running a stock fuel tank, 16 point whatever gallons, and we're getting a lot of that out of there. I would say every last drop, pretty close to it, but enough to run good long stints. So we don't have that kicking, and we also don't have a bespoke wide body kit. This thing is wide enough that you can fit those 18x10s, those 275 tires under the stock bodywork. So again, it's cost effective to build. Oh yeah, and my other point is like and by the way, the tertiary.
Do you have any other points?
There's like 100 of those cars, and maybe that's 100 over here or whatever. That number is decreasing constantly, but this thing with a low price for the parts it takes to build it, with a fully integrated cage, a welded in cage, not a bolt in, thousands and thousands of donors.
There's a lot of them out there. They're pretty cheap to fix. My wife Erica and I have been running one in HPDE for a couple of years now. It hasn't been expensive, right? I mean, the car's been run in South Carolina on hot days. It's been run at VIR. It's been run at Summit Point in summer. Zero heat issues. And so yeah, I mean, that's what I'm excited about. And factory cars are beautiful and they're cool, but between the low numbers and the intent that they're built for, I don't think they always meet the need for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, not having to jump straight to a race car like a 235IR. You're going to jump straight to a race car. You've gone through this for the past, you've had that car a year and a half, maybe more at this point.
Over 2 years.
And progressed through it. And they're fun street cars. I'm driving one right now as a street car as well, just as a daily. And I enjoy that, as well as you can kind of progress through a build of some sort through a HPDE rank. And you want to go down this path later? Great.
Yeah, we also had a couple other buddies with us, Spec E46 racers, guys that we're used to seeing at the front of the field, and John Adams Love the brakes on the car. They're impressive. Those in-performance brakes, they stop the car. PFC pads, 331, 332s, that solid modern ABS package, and of course on 275 tires.
You guys made the right choice on the brake package. Allowing the sport brake package is critical for those. The car that we're running did not start with that. And I mean, two observations. One, the brakes were terrible to begin with, and they are amazing now. Like, it is a night and day difference. It is really an amazing brake package. And two, the cost of that switch was surprisingly affordable. It's not a high dollar brake package. I think if you're building any race car, especially out of an older street car, you're going to be replacing a lot of this anyways.
Our car, because we shopped until we found the one that worked, already had that equipped from the factory. So you don't have to, it's not always that inexpensive aftermarket option. Sometimes your gunner car is going to have it. But I think to be able to build a car like this, and it's a skip generation car from a Spec E46, right? It's not the one next, it's the two next, which to me was the right one because I want that ZF8 speed. You got to have the ZF8 speed. You got to have a flappy paddle car. Kids these days don't feel like they have to do the time in the trenches with a manual trans. I don't want to drive a manual trans on a turbo car. It's slow.
Not only is the younger generation not excited about manuals the way we were, but it's not what race cars are anymore, right? Like any of the modern race cars that you're talking about, they're all automatics. And that's why a skip generation makes so much sense here, right? I mean, we've been saying, I remember a decade, we're out there racing Spec E30 and Spec E46 and so on. We're saying like racing's dead. There's no new cars that are going to be good anymore, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Like we were wrong. It's BS. Like, they always get better. And the answer is that yes, like now that this stuff is getting sorted and you know what to do with it, it's great. And so like another naturally aspirated inline six manual BMW is going to make no sense, right? Like, we've already got those.
It needs to be different. It needs to be at least, like you're saying, 5 seconds faster, 4 or 5 seconds, which, by the way, this one's even faster than that. There has to, and it has to look cool and not just a mild evolution. It needs to, I think so often people think spec racing. Granted, that's not exactly what we're talking about here, because there is no spec class for this. Yeah. But people think spec racing and they think, like the car has to, a spec racer wants this, a spec racer wants this budget, and everybody then builds to the same budget, the same power output, the same speed or whatever. And it's like, no, there's different subsets of people that want stuff. And to me, this ticks the boxes for me and a BMW. Honestly, it ticks the boxes for, I think, customers in a paddock, because it doesn't matter if you're a Porsche guy or a Mustang guy or what. There's not this car out there with this kind of lap time, the flappy paddles, expense or lack thereof to build the car.
Talking about current classing and customers and demand for this car, I think a lot of what's becoming the hottest racing right now is these classes like Grid Life, which is kind of like ST4 type classing power to weight. HFGT, the Hyperfest GT, the HFGT stuff, which is built off of very similar power to weight spec, right? Again, basically ST4 type stuff. I think there's 5 or 6 HFGT races next year in 2026. BMW CCA Club Racing has been offering the power to weight classes for a couple years now. We're seeing some really competitive racing in PWR 3 and 4 and so on. And so all of a sudden it's like, there's a lot of places for this car to live. There's a lot of demand to meet with a car that's very tunable in those small degrees, whether it's with power or weight, to make it competitive where you want to put it there. Or two, if a spec class comes out of it, great. But I'd love the flexibility for that and the ability to take it to some of those faster classes, races, and so forth, and be competitive.
We built this as a car template, exploring what the car platform is, thinking about what we would build and develop. I think it's a pretty darn good template. And, I think, like you said, it fits in so many of those other classes very well. Sure, you can do a different spec, but bang for the buck, and the combination that, that sum of the parts, the 1 + 1 = 3 kind of thing. Like, this thing is is like well designed so that things work in concert to create a car that does things that you kind of raise your eyebrow, because that's real impressive for the money and, you know, for that type of car. You know, when we have Spec E46s punching, you know, 205s at VIR, that was nuts. And you know, to have this thing touching 2 minutes, which used to be like, you know, M3 lightweight sequential kind of lap times, I think this is pretty nuts. And it's the sum of the parts. And, you know, I think it does directly fit into a lot of those classes. A lot of those things are regulated by how many mods you can do, you know, points for mods and stuff like that. So it's thought that was thought of when we were kind of putting this thing together and speccing what it ought to be. And you know, are we going to see 30 of our friends racing these things exactly the same? You know, we'll see. I can tell you we've got a few of them going on right now, and we have a lot of interest from other people that call in, because again, it just feels like it's super effective.
Yeah, modern turbo car and the flappy paddles. I know James has said flappy paddles a bunch, but I mean, that is the thing that a lot of customers that have called in and I've talked to so far, and other people in the office I've talked to so far, they've had their eye on this thing for a bit, and now that it's on track, they're like, oh, this thing looks pretty sweet. I may want to jump on this.
Yeah, I mean, can we talk about the transmission for a second? Because I'm pretty surprised. I don't have a lot of experience with the ZF 8-speed. You know, one of the cars I drive regularly is an F80 M3 with a DCT. I had the pleasure of driving the GT Moore car a couple years ago, which was a DCT. I don't like the ZF 8-speed to me feels as good, or I mean, I don't want to say better, but I dare say better. Definitely not worse. It's smooth. I mean, it holds the power. It shifts fast. It's much smoother operation. Like I wasn't left wanting a lot. I definitely like yours. The car that you all let me drive at VIR shifted faster and better than the one that we've been running. And I think you've probably done some transmission tuning.
We've got a software tune on that thing for a little bit crisper shifts on that. And I swear it is smoother than what the DCT is. That DCT clutch just grabs so hard sometimes that I think that torque converter allows a little bit more give. There's a common misconception that the M235IR had a different transmission than the road cars. Turns out it actually is the same. There's some website out there that says it has a clutch type torque converter. It's not. It is actually the same torque converter. So it is the same entire transmission, just a different software with, I think, an 8-speed lockout on the 235IR. So
just like our GT4 cars, which also run that ZF 8-speed, we're only allowed by homologation 7 gears, so 8th gear is along for the ride. It's modern technology. It is not an automatic transmission. It's
not an E30 transmission, right? Like your E30 automatics, like this thing sucks. We're in 2025 now. This is a transmission from the teens. I mean, that ZF8's been around for a while, but it is a modern transmission that shifts really well.
If you look back to Spec E46, right, the number of those running in WRL and AER and these endurance series, sort of like they're not running that parts list out of coincidence, right? And they're not doing it because they're running as a Spec E46. They're doing it because it was actually the right parts to build that car. And it's why it's been a great spec class. But this is going to be very similar, right? We're sort of ahead of that with these are the right parts to make a really competitive car out of this car. And, you know, when you follow the recipe, it takes the guesswork out of that. You get that. But also, you know, you start talking about car values and resale values and the ability to find parts in a paddock and get setup tips from the people that are fast. And like, there's so many benefits to running a car that is following a template and similar to other people's cars and can do all those things. You know, I think that's a big win with this one.
Everybody wants to spend money building a crazy car, but you spend not such a huge amount of money. You build a car that's just well put together and doesn't cost you a lot on catastrophic events, but it also doesn't cost you a lot for general care and feeding. Like, we put fuel in this thing, we put tires on it, they last a long time. Even the brakes, because we have a lot of pad volume in those big in-performance brakes, those things are lasting super well. And then the rest of the car just kind of does what it does. This is not a fragile car. This is a go beat on it car. I mean, Evan can probably speak more to that than we can because he's got a lot more time on his to date. But
yeah, I mean, we've got 6 or 7 full weekends on that car at this point. And some of those weekends, we've had people just beating it down the whole time. I think it probably did 20 sessions on track in a weekend, and all we did was put gas in it. I mean, it was flawless.
One of our commenters has asked, what are the planned changes? And I think, I think our development was extremely thorough on this. This is something we talked about a year and a half ago, and we've been building the spreadsheet, refining the spreadsheet since then, because it was already built. And we discussed that at Road America at this Grid Life event. Like, what are we going to do with this thing? In the build process, we didn't just, whip it together with existing parts. That's why we build a template car, so we can develop the parts that are needed if somebody chose to build a car like this. And that's part of that year and a half process of coming up with all these things. And I think based on testing, I love the car. Based on our development project, I think we've done our work.
We didn't talk about this. We're doing the S55 oil system on these cars, right? Which puts it right into where the M235IR is. And I think we're seeing the reliability that those cars saw quickly.
Yeah, which was, I think the recommended engine replacement at a pro level, this is just standard across every car that BMW manufactures, is like 30,000 kilometers. But I mean, I was running those cars at the ring that were just getting beat on, seeing 60,000+ kilometers and making plenty of good power, et cetera. There'll be maintenance intervals, but those things last super well as long as you take care of that oil starvation problem or oil pump problem. Like Spec E46, we had an oil pump and baffle that are absolutely recommended. And then we boxed that car in, the Spec E46 in with RPMs and some things like that are good common sense. Used in the right window, man, these things are robust. We're pretty pumped on it. I'm glad you're pretty pumped on it. It sounds like you are.
Yeah.
Well, based on the fact that your car's in the shop getting a cage, I assume you are.
Yeah, ours is going racing in March is the plan. So
yeah, well, I think it's an awesome idea, and we'd love to have more of them out there. So, we've got a bunch of videos on it at this point, kind of behind the scenes of what we're doing. I think we're getting ready to get out in front of exactly what we've done, and publish that parts list once we have time to work through it. But come build a similar car. Come take our template and do more of these, because we want some buddies to race against. Well, thanks for taking the time.
Right. Yeah, thanks for letting me drive the car, guy. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. going to be a wild ride.
Whoa, 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 whoa. I feel like there's a lot of buildup right now.
Right?
The energy.
Feel it?
Check, check, check. Check-a-lek-a-lek.
What's up, guys?
We're driving an F32 today at VIR. Boom, 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 boom. Are we ready? Are we ready?